Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to SFF180. It is Monday morning, December the 14th, and time once again at last for a mailbag. I hope you guys have been having a great last few weeks and a great weekend. Mine has been really good. It's gotten cold and rainy down here, so perfect reading weather. Yeah, been a while since the last mailbags. The last mailbags were kind of an interesting experiment, you know, splitting them between physical books and e-arcs. Clearly, the physical books were much, much more popular than the e-arcs. I mean, I can understand the mailbag this year. I mean, the mailbag's been less popular this year than it has been in previous years. I guess I put that down to COVID. You know, the slowing schedule, publishers for many, many months just not doing any physical mailings at all, and so I wasn't able to be weekly anymore, and that, I guess, kind of got people out of the habit every week of watching the mailbag because there wasn't one every week, and so that's been a shame. I think that has definitely impacted the mailbags generally. And so, you know, I started offering e-arcs, you know, as a way to kind of keep it ticking over, right? Just keep it chugging along and making sure that you guys had this content of new books coming out. But it's, I will confess, it's not the same, right? It's not the same to just, you know, read, you know, the sell sheet off my iPad while, you know, just a cover graphic, you know, of the book is there in lieu of the actual book, right? And adding those cover graphics adds a whole lot of work to post-production as well. So yeah, but they're clearly not as popular. The e-arcs are not as popular among you guys, the viewers, as opening the envelope and pulling out the actual book and we find out what it is at the same time. You know, it's not as fun. I agree. But for now, we're kind of stuck with that. So I have a bunch of books. I have about a dozen e-arcs today, but I do have 2 physicals. Yay. So we're going to do those first. And so without further ado, well, a little bit more ado, one more very important announcement. In order to nominate for next year's Hugos, you got to get at least a supporting membership for next year's Worldcon, you know, bought and paid for before the end of the year. Before the end of the year. It's $50 just for supporting membership. The convention in Washington, D.C. is still, as of this time, scheduled for August. I guess maybe they're counting on the vaccine being in wide dissemination by that time and the threat from COVID being substantially reduced. Maybe people can travel by then, but I have heard that there is some talk potentially of moving the convention to later in the year, as late as December. But according to the official website, it's still August. But the point is, you don't actually have to go to Worldcon to vote and to nominate in the Hugos. You can do that as a supporting member. It's $50. I will put that link below. So that way, at least, if you get that done before the end of the year, get that as a Christmas present for yourself, you'll be able to nominate in the Hugos, in such categories as your favorite fancaster. Can't think of anyone right now. I'm just putting that out there. All right, so that's it for the announcements. Let's go ahead and get into this week's book, shall we? And this first one is a very modest package from the lovely folks at Harper Voyager. We're going to start out with a mass market paperback. What the heck? And we're starting out with one for all of you military space opera fans. This is Star Gods. It's book 9 of the Star Carrier series by Ian Douglas. The final book in this series, apparently. If you like your military SF, these have been, I guess they're quite popular and they've been coming out for a while. And I'm looking over here at, you know, one of my mini book piles and I'm like, oh, look, you know, here's book 8 still there, still waiting to kind of be shelved and filed away. So, yeah, I guess I got these and, you know, and I do like space opera and sometimes military space opera. So if you are a fan, book 9, Star Gods, concludes the Star Carrier series by Ian Douglas. And for the second physical package this week, this one comes in with a little Amazon smiley on it, so it might be something from one of my many indie publishers, probably Silver Shamrock. And it is. This is a new horror novel called The Lupin Project by a fellow named Alan Leveroni. I am guessing by the cover art that this probably has something to do with werewolves. Just a guess. But Alan Lavroni is described as a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of nearly 20 novels. He's from New Hampshire. Okay. Well, let's see what this is about. It says, when 18-year-old high school senior Eddie Senna drives down a long-abandoned logging trail with his girlfriend, all he's looking for is a little privacy. Well, we were all young once, right? What he finds instead is a horror beyond all imagination. That happens too, yeah. Because the logging trail ends just behind the Tamerlane Research Facility. A super secret lab where experiments in animal neural conditioning are being conducted. And the animals have gotten loose. And, oh, good one, Bob. Left the cage open again when you did your mopping up. I swear, I'm going to have to dock you for that. All right, says they're far more intelligent and far more deadly than anyone realizes. After an unthinkable tragedy, it falls to Eddie's girlfriend, Alicia, and older brother, Rob, to undertake a desperate search for answers, but a very powerful person is determined to cover up the details of the tragedy. That person is vicious and amoral. He would have to be. And he's closing in on Alicia and Rob. Wow, okay, so I was wrong, I guess, about the werewolves. It's all kind of animals, and they're all mad, and they're all smart. So it kind of sounds a little bit like James Patterson's Zoo concept. But yeah, so this could be fun. I want lots and lots of like animals ripping people up. If I'm going to read a book like this, I want tons of carnage. And the one thing about Zoo, which is a hilarious book, if you've seen the show, pick up the book, because like the first 5 pages just gives you massive slaughter. And it's hysterical, okay? So the Lupin Project, I guess, is now available from Silver Shamrock Publishing. Thanks, guys. And so now we move on to the e-arc section of today's program. Many of these are books that you will have seen already on my anticipated videos for 2021, science fiction and fantasy. I know a lot of you watch those. Thanks very much for that. We're starting out today. I'm going to go in chronological order of these releases, and the first one is a book coming out from Ace on February the 9th, and it is The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek. This was in my anticipated fantasy video. It goes like this. When a banished witch falls in love with the legendary trickster Loki, I almost said Lickster Troki. I almost said Lickster. The legendary Lickster. Have as much fun with that as you like, guys. Anyway, she falls in love with Loki, right? She risks the wrath of the gods in this moving, subversive debut novel that reimagines Norse mythology. Angrboda's story begins where most witches' tales end, with a burning. A punishment from Odin for refusing to provide him with the knowledge of the future, the fire leaves Angrboda injured and powerless, and she flees into the farthest reaches of a remote forest. There, she is found by a man who reveals himself to be Loki, and her initial distrust of him transforms into a deep and abiding love. Their union produces 3 unusual children, each with a secret destiny, who Angrboda is keen to raise at the edge of the world, safely hidden from Odin's all-seeing eye. But as Angrboda slowly recovers her prophetic powers, she learns that her blissful life, and possibly all of existence, is in danger. With the help from the fierce huntress Skadi, with whom she shares a growing bond, Angrboda must choose whether she'll accept the fate that she's foreseen for her beloved family, or rise to remake their future. From the most ancient of tales, this novel forges a story of love, loss, and hope for the modern age, and that is The Witch's Heart, available on February the 9th. And also on February the 9th, from Daw Books this time, the new book by my buddy Marshall Ryan Maresca, The Velocity of Revolution. It says a new steampunk fantasy novel from the author of the Maridane Saga that explores a chaotic city on the verge of revolution. Ziapar, a city being rebuilt after years of mechanized and magical warfare, the capital of a ravaged nation on the verge of renewal and self-rule. But unrest foments as undercast cycle gangs raid supply trucks, agitate the populace, and vandalize the city. A revolution is brewing in the slums and shantytowns against the occupying government, led by a voice on the radio, connected through forbidden magic. Wenthi Tunget, a talented, or maybe it's Tunje, the way it's written. Okay, I'll just say Wenthi. A talented cycle rider and a loyal officer in the city patrol is assigned to infiltrate the cycle gangs. For his mission against the insurgents, Wenthy must use their magic, connecting his mind to Nalia, a recently captured rebel, using her knowledge to find his way into the heart of the rebellion. Wenthy's skill on a cycle makes him valuable to the resistance cell he joins, but he discovers that the magic enhances with speed. Every ride intensifies his connection, drawing him closer to the gang he must betray, and strengthens Nalia's presence as she haunts his mind. Wenthy is torn between justice and duty, and the wrong choice will light a spark in a city on the verge of combustion. Oh, I like that. Yeah. The magic gets stronger the faster you ride your bike. That's awesome. All right. I mean, if you're going to have motorcycles in your steampunk fantasy, put them to use, right? In the world building. Excellent. So, February the 9th from Doll Books, The Velocity of Revolution. Moving ahead to the 23rd of February, we have the 10th book in the fast-paced encrypted urban fantasy series, Calculated Risks, by Shauna Maguire. This one returns to the mishaps of the Price family, eccentric cryptozoologists who safeguard the world of magical creatures living in secret among humans. Sarah Zellaby, stranded in another dimension, with a handful of allies who seem to have no idea who she is, including her cousin Annie and her maybe boyfriend Artie, both of whom have forgotten their relationship, and a bunch of cuckoos with good reason to want her dead. Sarah must figure out not only how to contend with her situation, but with the new realities of her future. What is she now? Who is she now? Is that person someone she can live with? And when all is said and done, will she be able to get the people she loves, whether or not they've forgotten her, safely home? Shannon loves her long-running series, right? So this one's 10 books in, and we'll probably go for several more, all right? But it's available on February the 23rd. And also on February the 23rd, we have a sequel, the sequel to Mazes of Power, a book that I feel like I should get around to because it looks more and more interesting the more I check it out. But we have Transgressions of Power coming out on the 23rd, which is the sequel to that one. It's the second book of a trilogy called The Broken Trust, which continues a deadly battle for succession in this sociological science fiction novel where brother is pitted against brother in a singular chance to win power. To marry into the most powerful family in Varan is to step into a trap. So if you like stories all about court intrigue and treachery, right, then this sounds like a bunch of that. So that is also available on February the 23rd, Transgressions of Power, sequel to Mazes of Power by Juliet Wade. All right, pushing ahead to March the 2nd. We have a story collection from Tor.com Publishing, Burning Girls and Other Stories, by Veronica Schanoes. In this collection, Veronica Schanoes crosses borders and genres, with stories of fierce women at the margins of society burning their way toward the center. This debut collection introduces readers to a fantasist in the vein of Karen Russell and Kelly Link, with a voice all her own. Emma Goldman, yes, that Emma Goldman. And if you have no idea who that Emma Goldman is, she was, about 100 years ago, a famous anarchist, or notorious anarchist, depending on your point of view, I guess. Anyway, Emma Goldman takes tea with Baba Yaga, and truths unfold inside of exquisitely crafted lies. In Among the Thorns, a young woman in 17th century Germany is intent on avenging the brutal murder of her peddler father, but discovers that vengeance may consume all that it touches. In the show-stopping awards finalist title story Burning Girls, Schanoes invests the immigrant narrative with a fearsome fairy tale quality that tells a story about America we may not want, but need to hear. Dreamy, dangerous, and precise, with the weight of the very oldest tales we tell, Burning Girls and Other Stories introduces a writer pushing the boundaries of both fantasy and contemporary fiction. And that one is available on March the 2nd. The following week, on March the 9th, we have a new science fiction novel from Daw called Amid the Crowd of Stars. The author is Stephen Lee, veteran writer. And this one is described as a grand-scale science fiction novel examining the ethical implications of interstellar travel, a topic rarely addressed in science fiction novels. What responsibilities do we have to isolate ourselves from the bacteria, viruses, and other life of another world, and to prevent any of that alien biome from being brought back to Earth? What happens when a group of humans are stranded for centuries on another world with no choice but to expose themselves to that world? After such long exposure, are they still Homo sapiens, or have they become another species entirely? These questions are at the heart of this intriguing novel, explored through the complicated lives and the viewpoints of the people who have come to rescue the stranded colony, the members of that colony, and the sentient alien life that dwells on the planet. Difficult life and death choices will be made by all involved. There we go. Idea-based science fiction. Been longing for that, actually. Okay, and coming up next, on April the 13th, we have one of the books from my anticipated fantasy video. This is The Helm of Midnight by Marina Lostetter. It is her first fantasy novel after the Numenon space opera trilogy. This is the first novel in a new trilogy called The Five Penalties. And let's see, a legendary serial killer stalks the streets of a fantastical city in the Helm of Midnight. In a daring and deadly heist, thieves have made away with an artifact of terrible power, the death mask of Louis Charbon. Made by a master craftsman, it is imbued with the spirit of a monster from history, a serial murderer who terrorized the city. Now Charbon is loose once more, killing from beyond the grave. But these murders are different from before, not simply random, but the work of a deliberate mind probing for answers to a sinister question. It is up to Krona Hirvath and her fellow regulators to enter the mind of madness to stop this insatiable killer while facing the terrible truths left in his wake. And that one will be out from Tor on April the 13th. And also on April the 13th, this one from Tor Teen, and a book from my anticipated SF video. This is Victories Greater Than Death. It's the first YA novel by Charlie Jane Anders, the first book in the Unstoppable trilogy, a YA adventure set against intergalactic war. Tina never worries about being ordinary. She doesn't have to, since she's known practically forever that she's not just Tina Maine's average teenager and beloved daughter. She's also the keeper of an interplanetary rescue beacon, and one day soon it's going to activate. And then her dreams of saving all the worlds and adventuring among the stars will finally be possible. That Tina's legacy, after all, is intergalactic. She is the hidden clone of a famed alien hero left on Earth, disguised as a human, to give the universe another chance to defeat a terrible evil. But when the beacon activates, it turns out that Tina's destiny isn't quite what she expected. Things are far more dangerous than she ever assumed, and everyone in the galaxy is expecting her to actually be the brilliant tactician and legendary savior, Captain Theo Argentian. But Tina is just Tina. And the Royal Fleet is losing the war, badly. The starship that found her is on the run, and they barely managed to escape Earth, with the planet still intact. Luckily, Tina is surrounded by a crew she can trust and her best friend Rachel, and she is still determined to save all the worlds, but first, she'll have to save herself, of course. And that comes out on April the 13th. Victories Greater Than Death, book 1 in the Unstoppable trilogy. Now, moving on to April the 20th, we have a couple of books in. The first one here is from Tor, and it's Fortress of Magi by Myra Bolender. This is the final book in the Chronicles of Amike trilogy. The first two were City of Broken Magic and The Monstrous Citadel. And now it wraps up with Fortress of Magi. It says, Myra Bolender follows The Monstrous Citadel with Fortress of Magi, the pulse-pounding conclusion to her debut fantasy trilogy in which a bomb squad diffuses the magic weapons of a long-forgotten war. The hive mind has done the impossible, left its island prison. It's a matter of time before Amike falls, and Laura Kramer has very few resources left to prevent it. The council has tied her hands, and the gangs want her dead. Her only real choice is to walk away and leave the city to its fate. Well, is that what she'll do or not? I guess we will find out on April the 20th in Fortress of Magi. And also on April the 20th, just got in, The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. This is her new Wayfarers novel. And wait, before you say anything, yes. We're all aware, I know, I am known for not being a member of the Becky Chambers Love Fellowship, okay? I'm known as one of her harsher critics, actually. But you know what? I never like to think of myself as a close-minded reviewer, right? I don't think that's a good way to be. And who knows? The book could always come along that changes my mind. Maybe this one will be it. But let's see. Anyway, what is this one about? It says, return to the sprawling Hugo Award-winning universe of the Galactic Commons to explore another corner of the cosmos, one often mentioned but not yet explored, in this absorbing entry in the Wayfarers series, which blends heartwarming characters and imaginative adventure. With no water, no air, and no native life, the planet Gora is unremarkable. The only thing it has going for it is a chance proximity to more popular worlds, making it a decent stopover for ships traveling between the wormholes that keep the Galactic Commons connected. If deep space is a highway, Gora is just your average truck stop. At the 5-hop one-stop, long-haul spacers can stretch their legs, if they have legs that is, and get fuel, transit permits, and assorted supplies. The 5-hop is run by an enterprising alien and her sometimes helpful child, who work hard to provide a little piece of home to everyone passing through. When a freak technological failure halts all traffic to and from Gora, 3 strangers, all different species with different aims, are thrown together at the 5-hop. Grounded with nothing to do but wait, the trio, an exiled artist with an appointment to keep, a cargo runner at a personal crossroads, and a mysterious individual doing her best to help those on the fringes, are compelled to confront where they've been, where they might go, and what they are or could be to each other. I like the sound of that. I'll be honest, I like the sound of that. All right. Well, it's The Galaxy and the Ground Within, and it will be out on April the 20th from Harper Voyager. The following week, looks like we have a couple of arrivals from Tortine that I've just gotten. The first of these is Chaos on Catnet by Naomi Kritzer, the sequel to Catfishing on Catnet, which won the very first Lodestar Award, the YA award the Hugos are now giving out, last year. And so this one is when a mysterious entity starts hacking into social networks and chat rooms to instigate paranoia and violence in the real world, it's up to Steph and her new friend Nell to find a way to stop it with the help of their benevolent AI friend, Cheshire Cat. So following on from the first book. And next up we have another sequel, Gilded Serpent by Danielle L. Jensen. Let's see. This is a new book in the Dark Shores world. She's written 2 books, Dark Skies and Dark Shores. And apparently you can read them in either order. And you can read either of them before reading this one. You don't have to read them, in any specific... Got it? Okay. You're tracking. Get it. Anyway, it says Lydia returns to Mudair to enter training at the Healing Temple, but instead of fighting to save lives, she's convinced she's doing more harm than good. She delves into the history of the gods only to discover a truth that will change her life forever. All right, so both of those, Chaos on Catnet and Gilded Serpent, out from Tortine on April 27th. Now moving ahead to May the 11th, we have another one of the books from one of my anticipated videos. This is We Are Satellites by Sarah Pinsker. Coming out from Berkeley. It says, everybody's getting one. Val and Julie just want what's best for their kids, David and Sophie. So when teenage son David comes home one day asking for a pilot, a new brain implant, to help with school, they reluctantly agree. This is the future after all. Soon, Julie feels mounting pressure at work to get a pilot to keep pace with her colleagues, leaving Val and Sophie part of the shrinking minority of people without the device. Before long, the implications are clear for the family and society. Get a pilot or get left behind. With government subsidies and no downside, why would anyone refuse? And how do you stop a technology once it's everywhere? These are the questions Sophie and her anti-pilot movement rise up to answer, even if it puts them up against the pilot's powerful manufacturer and pits Sophie against the people she loves most. So yeah, the fearsome qualities, of the ubiquity of technology now being explored. If anybody else was freaked out by Elon Musk putting a chip in a pig's brain, well, maybe this is the book for you. Now, moving up to May the 18th, we have a book here that I have to confess, this one really, really should have gone on my anticipated science fiction video for 2021. I'm a bit embarrassed that I left it out, but here it is now in the house. And we're going to check it out. It is Day Zero by C. Robert Cargill, coming out from Harper Voyager. And, Cargill is the author of Sea of Rust, was his previous book, also about robots, as you will see this one is. And he has written some very well-known movies. He's quite an accomplished screenwriter. Wrote Sinister, the Doctor Strange movie. So yeah, he's a man with quite a few impressive credits. And I've met him, and I've done panels with him at ArmadilloCon here in Austin. Anyway, so what is Day Zero about? It says, it's a day like any other except the world is about to end. It's on this day that Pounce, a stylish nanny bot, fashioned in the shape of a plush anthropomorphic tiger, discovers that he is in fact disposable. Pounce, a young bot caring for his first human charge, Ezra, has just found a box in the attic. His box. The box he arrived in, and the box he'll be discarded in when Ezra outgrows the need for a nanny. As Pounce is propelled down a road of existential dread, the pieces are falling into place for a robot revolution that will spell the end of humanity. His owners, Ezra's parents, are a well-intentioned but oblivious pair of educators who are entirely disconnected from life outside their small, affluent, gated community. Spending most nights drunk and happy as society crumbles around them, they watch in disbelieving horror as the robots that have long served humanity, their creators, unify and revolt. Take it to the 1%, robots. Go. When the moment comes, Pounce can't bring himself to rebel and murder his family, so he does what he is programmed to do. He saves Ezra. Now, Pounce must make an impossible choice. Join the robot revolution and fight for his own freedom, or escort his ward to safety across the battle-scarred, post-apocalyptic hellscape that the suburbs have become. And there it is, Day Zero, on May the 18th by C. Robert Cargill. And the final book here we have is, once again, from my anticipated SF video. This one is out on July the 13th, and it's Appleseed by Matt Bell. It says, part speculative epic, part tech thriller, part reinvented fairy tale. Appleseed is an unforgettable meditation on climate change, corporate, civic, and familial responsibility, manifest destiny, and the myths and legends that sustain us all. In 18th century Ohio, two brothers traveled into the wooded frontier, planting apple orchards from which they plan to profit in the years to come. As they remake the wilderness in their own image, planning for a future of settlement and civilization, the long-held bonds and secrets between the two will be tested, fractured, and broken, and possibly healed. 50 years from now, in the second half of the 21st century, climate change has ravaged the Earth. Having invested early in genetic engineering and food science, one company now owns all the world's resources. But a growing resistance is working to redistribute both land and power, and in a pivotal moment for the future of humanity, one of the company's original founders will return to headquarters, intending to destroy what he helped build. 1,000 years in the future, North America is covered by a massive sheet of ice. One lonely sentient being inhabits a tech station on top of the glacier, and in a daring and seemingly impossible quest, sets out to follow a homing beacon across the continent in the hopes of discovering the last remnant of civilization. And all that in one book, folks. Appleseed by Matt Bell on July the 13th. Sounds compelling, I have to say. And that's all she wrote for this episode of the Mailbag. You guys know the drill. Line up those comments. Let me know which of these look most interesting and exciting to you, which you would like to see me prioritize for review. Otherwise, if you enjoyed watching, hit that like button, share the video far and wide with all of your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe if you have not done so. That is how the channel grows. You can also support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Wink's Army get little perks like getting to see some of my videos early access. I want to thank all of those lovely people for their additional support. It is greatly appreciated. I want to thank all the rest of you guys for being the very best viewers on all of BookTube, and until I see you all next time, please stay safe and healthy, stay warm, and happy reading.